Welcome. Thank you for all for joining. This is a joint webinar event by JazzCash and KASB. And the title of there's a lot of noise coming from Karachi. Karachi, I think there's noise coming. Now there's a lot. Okay, now it's fine. Thank you. Thank you. So welcome to the event. It's called Target 10 Million, organized by JazzCash. Again, a lot of noise coming from Karachi, so I think you'll have to turn the big speakers off. Oops, there's a tone, there's a beep noise. आपको बंद करना पड़ेगा ये स्पीकर से बड़े साउंड. हाँ, thank you. Okay, so we good to go? Durrani, you'll have to raise your hand. Okay, thank you. Thank you, because I see you right in front of me. So now, so we start this event. It's called Target 10 Million. We think that fintech can be used to grow the retail investor base in Pakistan by 50 times, if not more. Companies like JazzCash have done that in the area of banking, where they drove massive financial inclusion and kind of drove a financial revolution in Pakistan on the banking side. On the capital market side, I think the regulatory changes which SECP, PSX have enabled, especially over the last 18 months, we think that can bring that kind of change in the financial markets as well. At KSB, our mission is to democratize investment, and JazzCash is an inspiration because they have done that in the banking area. So I would, before we start this event, I would love for Erwan to say some welcoming words, and then we'll pass it over to Farrukh, the CEO of Pakistan Stock Exchange, who's joining us digitally from London right now. So Erwan, please. Yeah, now it's on.
Working now? Yeah. Hello, everyone. Just want to say hello first and thank you, Mr. Khan, CEO Pakistan Stock Exchange, for hosting us today. That's highly appreciated. Mr. Ali, SECP Commissioner, that I believe we also have with us, at least virtually, and Ms. Masood from Asian Development Bank. If you guys can fix the mic and the sound, that would be great. But I'm audible, right? Okay. So we're very happy today to sign this MOU and to have that discussion with KSB and the other participants. JazzCash has just closed a great 2020 year. So we just published a few numbers a few days ago. We now have 12 million active users. And the reason why we're so happy to be here today is that it's a perfect illustration of what we do and what we can do for Pakistan digital agenda. So we'll tell a bit more on the panel, but that's exactly bringing to masses services that are important, but that used to be limited to happy fews. And that's exactly what JazzCash is about. That's our mission, and that's why being here today and creating that great partnership with KSB is extremely exciting for us. So we're looking forward for the great developments, Ali and Durrani, in the next few weeks, and we'll get back to you with a great product that will change the face of investment, retail investment in Pakistan. Thank you.
Thank you, Erwan. What you have done, and I saw the infographics of the achievement of JazzCash in digitalizing and moving Pakistan to cashless economy is extremely impressive, and it's inspiration. And it shows that the power of technology and the power of fintech in enabling financial inclusion. Now, I would request Farrukh, who's the CEO of Pakistan Stock Exchange, to tell us about the changes which PSX has done. And I must highlight that I think since Farrukh has joined PSX, there have been immense changes, and there's a lot of energy, and there's this hope, and there's this at least for us as a participant in the market, there is a hope that PSX will transform and take this leap, big leap using technology. So I'm personally very thankful to Farrukh for the changes which he's spearheading and for all his colleagues at PSX. Farrukh, thank you for joining us. You are on mute right now. Would love to hear about the initiatives which you have taken. You are still on mute. I'll try to unmute if I can. Taha, can you unmute Farrukh?
Yeah, thank you, Ali. Sorry, the host had to unmute me. Thank you very much, Ali, for uh, inviting me to be part of this launch ceremony. This is a really exciting step forward, mashallah, both for KSP, trade, JazzCash, as well as for the capital markets of Pakistan. And I would like to thank and acknowledge the work of Erwan at JazzCash, Ali, you and your team, as well as Shauzab, Commissioner SECP, and the SECP overall, who have been extremely proactive in, as you mentioned in your opening remarks, to democratize investing, which is so important. Pakistan is the oldest markets in Asia, and we have achieved a lot in the 70 plus years that the market has been in existence. There is a whole conventions. There is the regulatory structure is extremely robust, but we haven't really achieved as much as we should have, I believe, as a leading regional market. But we truly, I believe, are at an inflection point, and we have the opportunity to make up for any lost time. And as you were saying, today is a particularly good day because one of the key things which had been absent in the market was a large diversified investor base, and particularly from the retail and individual investor perspective. And we had been working with the support of SECP to allow seamless online account opening, and the regulations came out last month, and the system went live yesterday. And I believe the first accounts are already in the process. Some have already opened and are in the process of opening. So I'd like to also congratulate the team at PSX and NCCPL and CDC. Everyone has worked together to bring this about. And this is a major significant change. And, coupled with that, the Roshan Digital Account initiative that was taken by the central bank. And I'm thankful to the governor and his team that when we had interaction with them, that they were very open, and they were in fact extremely supportive to link the brokerage accounts with the bank accounts. And that's again a huge step forward, because it's the first time that KYC is being shared between the banking sector and the capital markets. So, with these two steps of KYC and online account opening, these were two big bottlenecks and irritants for investors as well as brokers to be able to rapidly expand and open accounts. And we are in discussions with the central bank, and they are again extremely supportive. And I hope that will also come about soon, that just like in the Roshan digital accounts, we would also have similar KYC sharing for domestic accounts. So then, the second sort of not irritant, but something, a process that takes up a lot of time and effort, would also become a lot more seamless to open brokerage accounts. The last year, as all of you know extremely well, has been extremely challenging, not just for Pakistan, but for the whole global economy. And, like other countries, Pakistan is also going through challenging times, but mashallah, Pakistan has come out very strongly and in much better shape than many other regional economies. And this is due to the timely, proactive, and aggressive monetary, fiscal, and social steps taken by the central bank and the government of Pakistan. PSX also, with the full support of SECP, took all steps to ensure that the stock market continued to trade smoothly. Unlike other regional markets, we never stopped trading even for a minute, despite a very challenging operating environment. And the result of all these actions is that today PSX is among the top performing markets in the world. The economy and the market has come out of the pandemic, much more strongly than was expected and much sooner than it was expected. We are again in Pakistan as well as globally going through the second wave, and we all need to keep that in mind and be extremely careful as we navigate this current challenge over the next 2 to 3 months. Um, with the audience, I would like to share there are some people from overseas as well who may not be that familiar perhaps with how the market has evolved, particularly since in 1991 when it opened for international investors. As I mentioned, it's one of the oldest markets in Asia, and we have a really robust ecosystem and regulatory framework in place. If you look at our auditing standards, the disclosure requirements, and the annual accounts that are published and compare them to almost any market in Asia, they would compare not just favorably, but be right at the top in terms of all these criteria. The market has regularly been one of the best performing markets in the world. If you look at the last sort of 10 years, PSX has outperformed the MSCI Emerging Market Index, which is the benchmark that most fund managers use, by 3% per annum. Now that is a huge outperformance, and most fund managers would give an arm and a leg to get that sort of outperformance. But we still remain very undervalued. Pakistan doesn't really get the credit that its businesses, its economy, its market deserves. So we still have one of the lowest fees in the world and one of the highest dividend yields in the region. Um, so a challenge really, and steps like these are really important, is how do we improve and develop brand Pakistan so that this undervaluation over time disappears. And as I said, it's really exciting that JazzCash and yourselves have combined to take advantage of this huge opportunity. And the target 10 million is absolutely, in my view, achievable. With the country the size of the domestic market that we have, and Pakistan is a domestic demand story. And I think the fintechs and the financial services, if we look at other areas, have taken advantage of the domestic demand. And then I'm very sure that in retail broker and capital markets, that story will also play out in the coming years. This year has thrown up other challenges as well. And one of the key initiatives that we are taking right now is to install, with the help of our Chinese partners from Shenzhen Stock Exchange, a state-of-the-art trading and surveillance system. We're investing over $5 million in this system. Phase one of the surveillance system has already been implemented, and the trading system will, inshallah, be implemented by early 2021, hopefully by, inshallah, by March this year. So this will ensure that PSX is able to provide a robust and transparent trading platform. I think someone needs to mute.
Thank you.
Okay, should I think
Yes,
that's,
please.
you can hear me, Ali?
We can.
Okay. So as I was saying, the trading system will inshallah be implemented by end of March 2021. And it's been a huge challenge with the lockdowns and the COVID situation to keep to this timeline. But really, all credit to the team that we are more or less on target to implement this. And this will ensure that PSX is able to provide a robust and transparent trading platform well into the 21st century. And that is so important as we take these initiatives, because PSX itself has always been, technically extremely, has had a, very robust technical framework around it. But it was quite old now. So this is a really important step to make sure that we are right up there with the best in class globally. Because the key thing that investors need is that they need, and whether you're an issuer or an investor, our responsibility as PSX is to provide a robust and transparent trading platform that will help businesses raise capital and for all investors to make a good return. And that is what we are confident we will continue to provide with the implementation of this new system, as I mentioned, well into the 21st century. So I'll stop there, but really congratulations again, and we look forward to having a ceremony soon for the first 1 million, and then onwards. So
Thank you
thank
so
you
much.
and congratulations to JazzCash and to KSP Trade.
Thank you, Farrukh, for your time, and best wishes for all the great work which you are doing. We are now joined by Mr. Shauzab, who's the Commissioner of SECP. And before passing it on to him, while Taha, can you please unmute him and make him the co-host and turn his video on, please. Just to give perspective that in Pakistan so far only 200,000 people invest. So that's 0.1% of the population. In regional markets, like in the US, 60% of the population, i.e. more than like close to 200 million people invest. So there's a massive room for growth in Pakistan. And in the last 18 months, SECP has done massive reforms which enable the kind of growth which we think is now possible. And these changes at SECP have been broad reforms, ranging from changing the regulation, allowing digital onboarding, but also reforming the processes of SECP. So I think day before yesterday, they announced that now company registration is now completely digital. And I'm personally very impressed by the pace of change at SECP, because almost every month or every other week we hear about some change which SECP is introducing. So I must congratulate Commissioner Shauzab, as well as his colleagues who are on this call as well, which I noticed on the webinar. So with that, over to you, Shauzab Saab. Would love to hear more about the recent regulatory changes and the initiatives which the regulator has taken, which we think can enable massive growth in Pakistan's capital markets.
Gee, thank you, Ali. As always, you are very kind with your praise and all that. I don't know how market thinks, but at least you are very, very generous with your praise. So, actually, I would. The thing is that for this year, particularly, we are quite focusing on the outcomes rather than the steps we have taken. So we are obviously focused too much on the technology to do the required disruption and attain the level as Farrukh Saab has rightly pointed, and thanks to Farrukh Saab for sort of acknowledging our efforts, what we have done, and obviously a lot of support was required from his side and from PSX, NCCPL, CDC, all of them. And I think our infrastructure system is sort of mostly. Sorry, I had just give me a minute. Let me tell you. So the thing is that with all these, I think as Farrukh has rightly pointed out, I think this is something which is very important, that this is a large market in terms of, and by market now I mean the economy size. By economy size, and by the size of our population, we are a large country, we have reasonably large economy, and we have a lot of potential. But if we, based only on that, on nominal basis or purchasing power parity basis, if we compare ourselves in terms of capital markets, we really lag behind. For last 20 years, I think there's about very nominal increase in the number of total investors we have. Similarly, on the supply side, the number of securities has also almost remained stagnant. So these are the challenges which are actually hampering the market in terms of its depths, in terms of participation from the retail investors. And I think there are certain good things which has happened, and one word which actually Farrukh used is I think the inflection point of we are probably I think, or rather if I put it like this, that we have there are certain circumstances and ingredients which can put up and where we can look back and see that that was probably our inflection point in the history of our capital markets. So I think one thing is which is obviously working and helping us is the technology disruption which are happening globally right now. The second thing which I think is very positive for the economy and very positive for specifically for the capital market, that is the documentation side of the economy. There's a lot of push on the documentation, and our players who were actually thinking it or were taking it as a threat. I always sort of encourage them, and I always put it like this, that this is a great opportunity for the market, and I consider that a great opportunity based on certain facts. Our market, as compared to other asset classes, was always more documented. Number one. Number two, as the documentation is happening in other segments of the economy, so that actually puts us into our advantageous position. So our disadvantages vis-a-vis if we compare ourselves to riskier investments like, for example, real estates or precious metals or some other commodity items, physical commodity items, I think we will become equally for risk for the investor who have a greater risk appetite. We will become equally competitive over there. Number one. Number two. With that, because other things are actually being documented, and our market is more documented. So I think this gives a great opportunity for our capital market intermediaries. I think the other thing which is happening and which is very close to my heart, which actually I always talk about, is this concept of categorization of brokers and professional clearing members. So I think over there we are even on the intermediary side. I think I expect a lot of people coming or joining over there. So the thing is that I think with PCM coming in and this broker categorization kicking in its full form, which actually means somewhere in the second quarter of this current calendar year. So what will actually happen is that lot of people can do the clearing or outsource the clearing and settlement activities to a professional clearing member or trading and clearing member, whoever find it expedient. So whoever wants to work with trading and clearing, they can work with trading and clearing, and whoever wants to work with a professional clearing member. But for enabling that framework, what was required to be done was a professional clearing member. So I think it will actually open up a completely new avenue, and which I think, and potentially which I generally call as a digital broker or a distant broker, or doing everything through, and that can actually bring in smarter people and who are younger graduates and who are on the technology side. So that will open up another large window. With this digital onboarding in place, I think as the CEO of PSX has already told you, I've just received a message that the first account has been opened today through this digital onboarding process. And a lot of other are in the pipeline. So good news for Ali and good news for Jazz is that if anybody has any teething problems, if there are any issues, they would be sorted out in the process. So once you launch, I think things are more smoother as compared to a few days ago. So I would just like lightly touch on few digital onboarding I've discussed, broker categorization I've discussed, and whenever I talk about broker categorization, I am more excited about newer brand of distribution activities or distribution entrepreneurs coming into that. There's another initiative which actually we have taken, and we are actually now working on a working group with different telecom companies to identify. We will actually start that six to 8 weeks process in which we will discuss with a group of telecom companies, the leading telecom companies in Pakistan. So how can we leverage this telecom network or telecom strengths? So for bringing in more activity or bringing in more products into our, or bringing in new sort of investors in the capital markets. So market might hear something from just give me. So market might very quickly hear something on that account. Actually, there's a small disruption activity which is already. I just spilled over a hot drink over myself, so you might have seen that activity. So my apologies for that disruption. So the thing is that we are already working with these telecom companies where we will try to find out that what additionally on the capital markets which can be done. The other good news which have been shared by one of our intermediaries research team members, that this year was a very special year in Pakistan, probably one of the few ones. I don't know other people have data or not, but this year the funds generated through the capital markets was more than the debt provided by the banks to the private sector. So that was marginally higher as compared to the debt provided by the banks. So which included all the money generated for the debt, for the equities, either through right shares or whatever. So that is some news which was very encouraging for us. So other important thing which I think is also important for us is that currently we are in the process of completely revamping our company registration function or our registry. So we are going to make it, although there are certain things which are already happening based on existing, so we are actually centralizing few things like company incorporation, issuance of incorporation certificate, which has now been digitized. But now the next thing which we are trying to do is, on which we are in final process, and thanks to support of DFID that we are working on that we are bringing in a new e-registry, for which we have actually received EOIs for 3 world-renowned companies, and then it will go into the process of finalization and negotiation. So we will actually install a new registry which will actually streamline the processes, which include business process re-engineering. So number of processes will be reduced by approximately, so initially there was like, at least by 1/5, you can say, on the registry side. Currently, we are working with Central Bank, in which we will actually digitally provide them all the due diligence activities for the companies. And actually we are expecting a lot from that side. Simultaneously, the other thing which we have discussed at different forums, which I have discussed at different forums, is digitization of our internal processes. So as for the first thing or first preference for us is to do the registry, and the second, which will also start within this year, is digitizing one re-engineering, and second digitizing our internal processes, which will open up the doors for RegTech, and which will open up the door for complete provision of information and complete flow of information from our side to our regulators and from regulators to us completely digitally. So, and for that, this current year is very important. This current calendar year is very important, because first we will try to finish up on the registry, which is about 70-80% of our total work. But on the regulation side, we again are aiming to start that thing up, and probably by the end of the year we will be pretty much deep into that. So on the regulatory sandbox, what we actually on the fintech side, what we did was that we under a control environment, we actually invited, in first cohort we invited application, and there were 6 approval which were made. And these approval, I will sort of broadly tell you that what areas they covered. One was on the digital insurance. The second was digital platform for mutual funds. Then one was on robo-advisory. The one was for crowdfunding, and the last one was for P2P lending. So these things are something which will actually, they have about now 6 to 7 months left, in which they will work under the control environment. And based on that, if there are certain changes which are required to be made on the regulation side or on the law side. What is happening parallelly is because as we are working on these concepts and we are working on this regulatory sandbox structure, so on parallel, what we are doing is that we are also proposing new bills for legislative reform. So we are currently working on a securities bill, and we are working on a Companies Act amendment bill. So these are the two major bills which are under process. And on the security bill, we think that within the first quarter of this year, we will submit a bill which is approved from us to Ministry of Finance, and then it will go to Ministry of Law. And obviously after that, we cannot control the process. So, but the aim and why I'm highlighting that here is our aim is to identify and open up the changes where actually our market can do new things. We can make the market more efficient and transparent, and bring in new people, work both on actually supply and demand side. Currently, another thing which we are working, I think that will also help on the supply side, is we are working with PSX on potential concept of direct listing for the companies. So once something comes, we will also share that with market. Another thing which I think on which I'm really excited that something might come out of it, and I have also received a lot of interest on that. And we have shared a position paper on digital assets. And considering the fact which is happening on the documentation, considering the focus of the government on the technology side, our own preference for the technology side, the thing which actually, and whenever I talk about digital asset, because I'm always more excited about 2 or 3 categories of asset classes. So the biggest interest could be government borrowing or government debt. And second to me is, I think if we can do something on the real estate side. These are the 2 things on I don't know what and how it will come out, but these are the 2 huge opportunities which I think, because and if we see investment pattern or behavioral pattern of our people, our consumer in the market, so we can easily ascertain that people are much more comfortable by putting their money into real assets and government borrowing. So that is a huge potential over there. And with people like yourself and Jazz coming in, and with things which are happening on our infrastructure institutions, I think that provides a great opportunity. Currently, I am very positive and confident about the fact that along with PSX and our other partners at NCCPL and CDC, what we are right now doing is that we are actually urging, and we have received very positive response from government of Pakistan, where we can actually potentially see whole of the Sukuk debt, sovereign Sukuk debt, moving to our market, meaning the capital markets. So if that thing happens, that will open up a huge opportunity. And there are certain legal framework changes which are actually giving us an advantage compared to other, compared to the existing market. So where they are actually in a no choice situation to move the sovereigns, at least sovereign Sukuk to the capital market. So if that happens, considering the fact that right now Mizan is the 5th largest bank in this country, and considering the rate of growth on Islamic asset side and Islamic banking liability side, there's a huge demand for the Sukuk investment. So and typically on the sovereign Sukuk investment. So I think this is a huge opportunity, and that huge opportunity can be, and that can go a long way in terms of enhancing our retail distribution. So that will actually open up large new doors, and where actually a number of investors, at least to the extent of market, can enhance significantly. So I must tell you, I think I must confess that this is the very opportune time for people like yourself and Jazz coming into that area, and that will actually open up many other things. So I think a lot of exciting opportunities going forward. The other thing on which the third thing on which I am again very, very keen, or fourth thing, whatever number it is. So is how and what we can do to connect our market with the real economy, typically on the agri side. What is happening on CMC, Collateral Management Company? We have licensed first collateral management company, which is name of collateral management company, which can actually issue electronic warehouse receipts, and electronic warehouse receipt is actually recognized by central bank right now under its prudential regulation as something which is acceptable security. And considering the fact that the size of that economy, the requirement of capital needs of our farmers and that industry, I think that again is a huge opportunity, and we are again on the right point in time, right opportune time where we can actually use this fintech capability to fully capitalize on that. So. So I one thing which while Farrukh was discussing about Pakistan and Pakistan's financials and all that, one thing which I've noted with me was our minority interest ranking. So if we compare our ease of doing business ranking, and if we compare different rankings, overall in terms of ease of doing business on the World Bank Index, we are at 108. But in terms of minority interest, we are at about 26, which is very high. So which means that actually there's a lot of transparency, there's a lot of requirement in terms of disclosures and all that. So we compare very favorably on that account. So I think with this fintech disruption coming in, we are completely focused that by the end of next year, we should actually be what we are looking at is a completely automated registry, which is then linked to our STR, which is our secure transaction registry for movable asset, which is now fully automated and fully digital. So then linked with this registry and linked with the availability of information on that, with digital account opening, one thing again which Farrukh has mentioned is something which we have started working for domestic accounts. So we can actually completely align with the pattern of Russian digital account, we can have domestic accounts for that. So, and with digital onboarding and our partners, and if we can rightly partner these large telecom companies in this country, we can see a completely transformational year for our capital markets. Thanks, Ali.
Thank you so much for that, and clearly a lot of initiatives which you're leading, and so my enthusiasm is not unfounded, and in fact we have seen the results of it. As Farrukh also earlier mentioned that last year Pakistan's stock market was one of the best performing markets in the world, I think the third best, and more importantly there has been a significant jump in the volumes. I was looking at the numbers in 2019. Average daily traded volume was around 30 million, while last year it was 75 million, so more than a 3x growth. And similarly on the supply side as well, the number of listings last year was, I think, 3x more than the listing in the few years before that. And from what I've read about what Farrukh Saab had said in press, that there are more companies in the pipeline who want to go public. So certainly the results are visible of the initiatives which you've taken, and the steps and the things which you mentioned. I think it can only go better from there. And I've as a fund manager, I've invested in most of the emerging markets, especially in the EMEA markets, and I certainly corroborate your point that Pakistan's corporate governance, transparencies, disclosure is far superior than most emerging markets. And I think often people in Pakistan are overly critical of ourselves. And that's perhaps because people over there don't have much global exposure to benchmark Pakistan against other markets. But certainly on the capital market side, infrastructure is really robust. The changes which are doing will now enable greater participation of retail investors, and people such as JazzCash have done that in the banking sphere. So there's a lot to achieve in the investment market as well. Thank you so much for your time, Shauzab. Now I'll request Sana Masood
Ali,
who
sorry, may I jump in unscheduled just for 1 minute?
please do, please.
Because I just wanted to highlight and Josh, the point that Shauzab Saab made, and one reason why I really feel we are at an inflection point, and I'm personally so excited, is that we have a really great relationship of trust and respect between the frontline regulator PSX and the apex regulator SECP, which is so important to take these some very difficult reforms forward. And the commission, as I mentioned earlier, has not just been supportive, but in fact been guiding, many of these reform processes. And Shoaib Saab in particular has been, extremely and proactively guiding and supporting this process. So, this relationship and being able to work together and discuss some very difficult issues is, I think, a very important reason why I'm so excited that we have seen such meaningful change, and we will continue to see meaningful change. And one last point, which I slipped my mind, which I wanted to highlight to your audience, was the launch of ETFs. Now, ETFs, as you know, is the largest asset category perhaps in the world, worth over $7 trillion, but we didn't have them in Pakistan. But despite the lockdowns and difficult circumstances, we've launched four ETFs, and there are more on the way. And they are, as you know, an ideal product for retail investors, combining the ease of being able to trade, and being a much more low cost, getting diversified exposure at a much more lower cost than a mutual fund. So just wanted to mention that, and sorry for the interruption, but I thought I wanted to share this personal excitement and gratitude that I feel.
Thank you for doing that, and I totally agree with you that it's the alignment of trust which is extremely important, and which is happening right now, which is the reason why the results are showing this kind of growth. And in Pakistan, it has not been the default case, so it's certainly something to cherish about. So now I'll request Sana Masood from Asian Development Bank. Asian Development Bank has been supporting capital market reforms in Pakistan for many years. And so I thought it would be interesting to hear from Sana about the plans which the ADB has, and the role which ADB has played in the past with capital markets development. Sana, can you hear us? I
Yes.
can't see.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Now I see you.
Perfect. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Ali. Honored to be here and speaking after Shauzab and Farrukh. And again, many congratulations to not just KASB and Jazz, but also to SECP and PSX on this really important milestone. By way of introduction, my name is Sana Masood. I look after the financial sector interventions at the ADB Pakistan office. And I was asked by Ali to brief the participants on ADB's role in the development of capital markets in Pakistan. So I'll take a few minutes to discuss the background on why it's important for us, and then talk about briefly on our ongoing program. So ADP's strategy is to prioritize the development of financial sector and capital markets to support a sustainable economic development by creating an enabling environment for private investment. Capital markets act as a major catalyst in transforming the economy into a more efficient, innovative, and competitive marketplace. However, as pointed out by our colleagues, Pakistan's capital markets historically have played a limited role in financial intermediation and resource mobilization. Despite the robust framework and despite a magnificent performance, the PSX has lacked depth, and not only in terms of the number of investors, but also in terms of companies raising capital. Like Ali mentioned, we have fewer than 200,000 active investors, which is less than 0.1% of the population. As market capitalization, we lag behind our peers in terms of capitalization as a percentage of GDP, which also means that there is a lot of room for improvement and a tremendous opportunity for growth. We're very, very excited to be then working with SECP and the government on reforms in the past couple of years. And in just the last year, as Shauzab mentioned, it's been it's been a year of reforms. The SECP has come up and PSX has taken a number of initiatives to deepen the market. Be it the launch of the Growth and Enterprise Board to promote listings, the launching of the regulatory sandbox, new broker regime, online platform to register charges and security interest, collateral management companies for the agri sector, and of course, digital onboarding. All of these things we believe will lead to deepening of the capital markets in Pakistan. Now coming to the role of ADB in this sector, we have been supporting the development of the financial markets over the past couple of decades. We started off in 97. So between 97 and 2002, support was provided through policy-based financing to the government for capital market development to support fundamental reforms. The key was the establishment of SECP and the transition to a new regulatory regime. After that, in 2002, ADB supported a program for financial and non-bank markets governance to strengthen SECP's regulatory regime in the non-bank sector. In 2007, there was another policy-based support for the government, which helped in implementation of an SRO model at the stock exchanges. And now, finally, in 2020, we are currently have the third capital market development program with the government, and we recently approved a $300 million loan in September 2020 for development of capital markets in Pakistan. Now, this program, which is ongoing, is expected to augment the size and capacity of capital markets and support reforms on the institutional level, and as well as the regulatory capacity of relevant government bodies. We're supporting the government in the development of market infrastructure, supporting SECP with the surveillance systems. We're looking to improve the supply of alternative financial instruments, including derivatives. And one very important part of our program is helping the government strengthen its debt management proficiency, which we feel is key for government debt market and the bond market in Pakistan. Again, this effectiveness of this program, we believe, is facilitated by comprehensive consultations that we've had with the stakeholders. Along with SECP, our teams have been in touch with with most of the participants here, which has led to the formulation of a long-term national capital market master plan by SECP. This is now available on SECP's website. It was approved by the finance minister last year. And we do hope that it will ensure the sustainability of reforms that we have been talking about in the past. Now, one of the most important areas in this plan is focusing on increasing the number of retail investors in the market, which requires ease of access. It requires trust in the market, which is being done, like Farrukh mentioned, improvement in surveillance systems and the trading system, and of course, availability of investable capital, savings, and financing. A key recommendation in the short term of this plan, which was approved last year, was to streamline investor onboarding, the investor onboarding process for onboarding new retail investors through simplified KYC procedures. A key challenge, in our opinion, for increasing this retail penetration has been the cumbersome account opening processes and lack of access. The brokers have been concentrated in few large cities, very few branches. Even if you have access, you need to be there in person for biometric capture. You need to sign at least 30, maybe 40 times on different forms and submit a lot of documentation. In most developed markets, even developing markets, globally, this onboarding process has become frictionless and digital, and we're very happy that now this is the case. This is going to be the case in Pakistan as well. And we believe that this initiative that we're talking about today will truly play a part in achieving the target of reaching the target of 10 million investors very soon, inshallah. So with this, I'd like to end here. Again, thank you for the time and all the best for this venture.
Thank you, Sana. And I totally agree that I think digital can give people access to information and access to platforms through which people can invest. And I think this access is really important for building the trust which is required. In the past, because there was no very difficult for investors to meet the brokers because a physical interaction was required. So automatically capital markets remain regional, around the stock exchange area in Karachi or around the stock exchange area in the buildings where Lahore Stock Exchange and Islamabad Stock Exchange was. So even within cities like Karachi, the concentration of investors was focused around the area where the physically the broker was. And of course, if there is no interaction, then it's very difficult to build trust. Now, digital enables the kind of growth which we need and to expand that network of investors and to give people the information, knowledge, and access which builds that trust, which is critical. And now we want to move to the panel discussion, and I want to first pick on Erwan to talk about the case study of JazzCash, because all the kind of stuff which we've talked about, Jazz has done this in the area of banking. Because prior to the almost the revolution which the telcos led, banking was very similar as well. It was, Pakistan banking penetration was one of the lowest in the world, with I think only 10% of the population had bank accounts, and that changed. And that change was driven by and is led by JazzCash. So I would love for Erwan to please tell us about what JazzCash has done in digitalizing finance in Pakistan.
I was sharing a few.
Can't hear you clearly, Erwan.
On the active customers. Sorry? Let's give 1 minute to the technical team. Yep. Okay. So I was sharing a few numbers on the active customers. One number that is also very interesting is the number of new users we registered last year. Because it can,
if you can increase the volume, that would be great.
Potential of what we can do with KASB in this new venture.
Turn your volume higher.
I'm not audible?
The volume is very low.
Okay. So last year we registered 12 million, which is 10% plus of the adult population in 12 months. So how do we do that? Is because we have, with SBP, the right regulation, the right enabling regulation to do so. And I think I want to acknowledge the work that has been done by the two regulators here, and the constructive discussions we had with SECP, for example, in the process, along with KASB, because now it's possible to translate the same digital onboarding that we experience on mobile accounts for the retail investment sector. And it makes a big difference. It means that leveraging what we have with JazzCash, so the number of customers we have, all the KYC, so the information about the customers, we can onboard potentially millions of customers on this platform with KASB. So that registration is very important, and there's nothing we can do without the right regulation, right? And that's now it's happening. And thank you again, SECP and PSX for making it possible, because without that, it can't exist. Then, of course, you need a strong digital infrastructure that also exists, and that's why it will be possible to register these customers within, like on JazzCash, within a few seconds. Very quickly, you will have access to your services. So that's what JazzCash is doing. What we will do also with our partner, and that's what JazzCash is doing.
Yeah, now it's gone. But now we can't hear you. So we are trying a hybrid session from Karachi, where Erwan is London, and Perry is joining us from South Africa. So it's really multiple geographies and coordinating that. Now we can hear you. Yes.
Okay, so you can see technology can be a difficult creature. So that's why you need great partners like JazzCash to make it work. Yeah, guys.
I think if you, yes, now it's all good now.
We're back.
It does sound like music, yes.
So Ali and Durrani, I think this is a warm-up for the actual launch, right?
Exactly. All good now.
All good?
Yes.
Yep. So I was saying that what we will do with KASB is a perfect illustration, much better. Thank you. Is a perfect illustration of what we do JazzCash. So JazzCash, we're not producing the services, we're a platform, right? So we connect these customers through the service providers via a great customer experience. That's what we do, right? So what we did for the banking sector financial inclusion, which is signing up to a mobile account in a few seconds and start transacting from anywhere in Pakistan, now paying at about 100,000 merchants that we rolled out the last few months, will be bringing the same convenience to KASB customers through the JazzCash platform. So that's exactly what we do. We invite, I would say, all the companies who want to scale quickly and deliver a great customer experience and accelerate the digitization of Pakistan to come talk to us, and we're happy to host you on our platform. Because basically, that's what we do. We're an accelerator. Imagine a few seconds if, and that's exactly the discussion we had at the beginning, and that's why the strategic fit is so strong. Would KASB have had to onboard all these customers, go get these customers, invest in advertising to make their service known by the masses, and investing in all the IT and so on. So what we're doing is that you plug to JazzCash, you have access to 24 million registered customers. You have access to a great user interface, user experience, a modern payment instrument with a lot of innovations that will come in 2021. So it's exactly, everyone is bringing to the platform, to the partnership, what is good at, right? We are good at connecting millions of customers and giving them access to sophisticated services that were limited to, again, Happy Fews before. We're good also at designing user interface product, and that's what we bring in the discussion. So what you will see in a few weeks, so not 2-3 weeks, but not much more than that, is a great product. Something that any, I would say, country would be proud to have. So you'll have a much simplified product. Everyone will have access to it. You can sign up like this, and that's exactly what JazzCash is doing. So at a very efficient cost, of course, for KASB, and again, a great experience for the customers. So that's what we do at JazzCash. We, again, see ourselves as that platform and that accelerator, that engine for Pakistan digital progress, right? So we want to help in that direction, and that's what we do. We're not competing, we're partnering, and we're trying to be better and better at partnering. So work with us, and you'll get millions of customers. That's basically the conclusion, that that's what we do, and that's what we want to do more and more. So thank you for the great partnership again. I think it just kicked off the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Erwan. And certainly, JazzCash is a great accelerator for enabling digital growth in finance in Pakistan. And I can hear you. Yes. Can you hear me? You can't hear me? You cannot hear me? Okay. Yes. So I was just saying that thank you for that. JazzCash is a great accelerator for growth in digital finance in Pakistan. And we certainly look forward to working with you. And I'm sure that the experience which you'll offer to customers for investing would be something which would be would have a wow impact on the customers, and will make it easy for them to get access to information and get access to investment product. And I think it's that easy to use interface which you guys have done in the banking area, which makes your platform so interesting and so popular. Now I'll request Perry Blacher, who is a serial entrepreneur, a fintech. He's a fintech legend. He's on the board of some very successful large venture funds. He's also the chairman of FreeTrade, which is the leading retail broker in Europe. And I requested Perry, and I think he's joining us from South Africa, and I requested him to join because I wanted to hear from him the experiences of other markets and the other products where he has been involved in, either as an operator or as an investor or as an advisor. Because some of these companies have become multi-billion-dollar companies. And so I wanted to ask him in terms of, what are those good practices which the companies he has been involved in have done in those markets. So how did they get digital onboarding right, KYC right, scalability right, customer experience right, and perhaps we as KASB can learn from the experiences of which you have seen of other markets. So with that, thank you for Perry. Over to you.
Good. Yeah, thank you for having me. And it looks like you're putting on a great event. So it's a very broad question, and I'm not sure I have a kind of a lot to tell you that isn't sort of relatively generalizable across digital more generally, rather than sort of fintech specifically. I mean, speaking of the FreeTrade experience, so just to give you all some context, FreeTrade, it's sort of the Robinhood equivalent in Europe. It's, if you've heard of Robinhood, it's the largest sort of free mobile broker in the UK by some way. They've been growing extremely fast, both kind of customers and assets, but it's basically very similar to a Robinhood. It's a sort of free trades model, so there's no transaction fee for putting through trades. Unlike Robinhood make a lot of their money. So as a business model, Robinhood make their money both on sort of selling you risky kind of high margin products like options and derivatives, sort of CFDs, which FreeTrade doesn't do, and also makes their money from what's called payment for order flow, which is a sort of questionable practice in the US and is allowed in some European markets. Trade Republic do in Germany, where basically they sort of sell the retail order flow on to brokers who kind of trade against that book. FreeTrade, well, that isn't allowed in the UK. So FreeTrade's model is mostly they make their money off Forex. So they sell a lot of, about half of the trades on their retail brokerage of people buying US stocks, and there's a foreign exchange fee for trading in another currency. And then they have some premium products where they have a sort of pro account, a subscription account, where they let you do slightly more sophisticated orders like stop losses and limit orders and that sort of stuff. And then they have a sort of SIP account where they let you put their pension. So to come on to your question about sort of what's the key to success with these things. So FreeTrade themselves have been extremely good at two things. So one, to your point, Ali, is sort of all about the product, and they focused sort of very hard on sort of reducing friction in the product and making, on the usability of the product and making it sort of easy to use and easy to access. Digital KYC for brokerage in the UK has made a very big difference. If you've ever tried to start set up with any of the sort of older world brokers, at least in the UK, Hargreaves Lansdown, or, you know, you're sending in paperwork, they're reviewing it. It's a sort of 6 to 8 week process, whereas this is a, you know, probably very similar to what you've been trying to do there is, you know, they've been using a bunch of kind of third parties as well as their own technology to do ID verification, sort of KYC, automatic onboarding. We have also now open banking in the UK that lets you sort of automatically fund your account from a direct bank integration rather than trying to initiate a bank transfer. So, you know, the onboarding process is important with all of these neo brokers and neo banks in Europe. It's been a big driver of their growth because for millennials, they don't want to be collecting and sending in paperwork and all that sort of thing. And then, as I say, the product itself and its usability kind of has been a big driver of their growth. The thing that FreeTrade's done particularly well, and I think is true for Robinhood as well, was that they have a hugely engaged crowd, hugely engaged community. So FreeTrade actually raised money until recently through 5 rounds of crowdfunding. So from their own community, they raised money. They did by far the fastest crowdfunding ever in the UK. Their last round, they raised £7 million in, I think, an hour and a half. And they have a very highly engaged community who are sort of investors and owners as much as they are participants. And I think, I don't know the situation in Pakistan, but one of the things that I've been sort of very surprised and impressed with FreeTrade is the quality of that community. So a lot of people assume that the people who trade on Robinhood and these other neo brokers are sort of kids gambling money they don't otherwise have. When you engage with this community, actually, they're sort of 25 to 35-year-olds who work in banks and other digital companies. It's the CTO here and the head of biz dev there. And it's a sort of very high quality audience who just don't want to be using the older world brokers and paying their high fees. So they've had a very highly engaged crowd who they similarly use, as well as doing some traditional marketing, to answer your question. They do quite a lot of viral marketing. So for example, they have a referral program where the person who refers you to join gets given a free share. They don't know what it is, and you know, they get given one of sort of any of a number of shares to their own account, and so that increases virality, and just quite a lot of the sort of classic product-led hooks to try and sort of increase growth. In fairness to FreeTrade and a number of these other neo brokers, they've also been participating at a time in the world where, you know, in COVID times, some sectors of fintech have been suffering, you know, whether it's loans or SMEs. Some sectors, savings and investments particularly, have been absolutely kind of going ballistic and thriving. And so their growth has only been sort of sent somewhat nuclear by the big driver towards sort of investment generally. And then a lot of people, as I say, wanting to access other markets, US stock markets and sort of other products. So yeah, the brokerage business in the UK is a sort of a very interesting business. The other thing that FreeTrade did, which is becoming a sort of, which I know you guys do there, is a number of people are increasingly offering brokerage services. So for example, in the UK, some of the neobanks like Revolut offer free stock trading or stock trading of some sort. Some of the CFD providers provide stock trading. A lot of them do that through kind of using a third-party platform. So there are startups like Drive Wealth and others who sort of offer white label services. They're pretty restrictive and don't give you as much flexibility over your own product and to do more complex trades. So FreeTrade built their own sort of full stack technology, as I know you've done some of there, and that again makes something of a difference to the quality of the sort of end product. There, I've kind of waffled on for a bit. I don't know that they're substantively different from many other fintechs and their growth plans. A lot of it, you know, there is digital spend and, you know, Facebook and Google and all the rest of it, but actually the community and the community-led growth, the organic growth, has been exceptional and continues in all of the European trading startups. Actually, I think there's just a huge amount of latent demand for people not to be paying 12, 15 pounds a trade and signing up in 6 weeks sort of thing.
Thank you. That's very interesting, Perry, because when you were talking, it almost seems as if the parallels which I draw from Pakistan was that it's like blocks that, you know, you need all the blocks to be in place before the thing can pick up. So digital onboarding, KYC, marketing, the technology, and then the demand outlook. So if payments, as I said, like UK having
payments is another example. I mean, they struggled with all of these things. They sound like small things, but payments is a good example. You had to initiate a transfer yourself. It took 3 days to clear. You couldn't get your funds out for 3-4 days. It just makes a massive difference from sort of instant digital access. The completion rate's higher, user satisfaction's greater. So you're totally right. It's sort of lots of little things that incrementally make the product step change better than the incumbents.
Absolutely. And the interesting thing is that in Pakistan also that, now it seems that all of those blocks are there. And yesterday, the government announced the launch of a micropayment gateway through which real-time payments could be made, even smaller payments. And before that, there is a real-time settlement system for larger payments. So all the building blocks now in Pakistan are there in Pakistan now. It's just about getting the user experience right for the capital markets. So it's very, very interesting. What about, of course, you have also invested a lot in emerging markets, especially in Africa. Do you see examples over there as well of similar products?
So we've had some of the same sort of challenges of you, I think, where, so fintech on this continent was actually like the US. People sort of think fintech's all now. Actually, a lot of this innovation has been happening for a long time. And the first building blocks really are kind of generally payments and credit. So 95% of the startups on this continent that are financial services related are generally sort of fixing some of this sort of fragmented multi-local payment infrastructure issues. So, payments and credit tend to provide something of the kind of baseline for it. So things like investment, particularly also given disposable income per capita, it's one of those things which typically, GDP per capita is sort of higher before you get into things like savings and investments and so on. So here it's fairly big in South Africa, where we have, a larger economy and more wealthy people. Elsewhere on the continent, sort of, as I say, the fintech innovation is more around some of these core infrastructure pieces, domestic remittances, payments, much as it has been where you are. What I would say, though, is some of those big issues, KYC AML being a good example, yes, have yet to standardize. Some governments have adopted, some haven't adopted. Some say you can do it fully digitally, some still need in-person care, and those really are sort of significant step change differences to how easily and how quickly one can roll out services or cost effectively. So yes, we're only now seeing kind of standardization on some of those core infrastructure kind of components, I would have said. And I guess the good news, what it's like in emerging markets, it's the sort of unbanked and the underbanked who would tend to be the big story, at least where we are. Whereas in emerged markets, it's slightly different. It's kind of incremental improvement to systems. So here, you will have heard the stories of things like M-Pesa in Kenya or some of these other systems that basically completely bypassed a historic kind of highly frictionful, expensive system. So yeah, you're seeing emerging markets, this stuff is proliferating. I guess one of the things you learn, though, which relates to your question, it's sort of the last thing I'll say. I mean, I learned this as an investor, is there are basically some business models that work and work everywhere. And then there's a few business models that work sort of some places and not anywhere else. And then there's like a hell of a lot that just don't work anywhere, basically. And so what you tend to find is that there are some of these things, actually sort of low cost brokerage is probably a good example, where it seems to standardize to multiple geographies. And, it's just a question of how big the market and how well they've executed. Whereas there are sort of slightly less examples where there are kind of domestically specific, tailored, solutions to problems. But as I say, to be fair to an audience that are skeptical about things like this, there are a lot of these models where people, at least where I live, they show up and say, we are the X of Y. And it's like, well, you don't even want to be the X of X, let alone the X of Y, if you know what I mean. We're building the sort of plaid of South Africa. It's like, wow, that's, not great, because you don't want to be the plaid of America. So you've sort of, got to take some of this stuff with a bit of a pinch of salt. Not everybody has a great sustainable model.
Thank you for your time, and this was very interesting. And I hope that you, with your hats on as either as Augmentum or FreeTrade chairman. I did notice that FreeTrade says that they're looking for a head of new growth markets.
Yeah,
so, Pakistan is a market which the growth market.
So I've heard. Absolutely, so I've heard. Brilliant.
Thank you, Perry.
Thank you, Ali. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Have a good day. And now I'll ask Aimun to give, because Aimun, to tell us a little bit about trading Titan competition and your interaction with students. Because what I want to get out of this, Aimun, is that in terms of demand, in terms of, because in Pakistan, we always hear that people are not educated about investment products. We hear that it's too risky. Maybe bonds might be better for them. But with Trading Titans, which is this online student investment competition, but you also teach them. So, and you go to universities and you make them write articles and reports and read books. So can you please tell about that? And please tell us in terms of, how many students you touched, which universities, and what was the experience, and how long the competition was.
So Ali, can you hear me?
We can, but yes, we can.
Okay, great. So just for perspective, KASB Trading Titans has been one of the flagship campaigns that we've been running for the past 2 years. Okay, I think it's better now.
It is.
Okay. So this has been one of the flagship campaigns that we've been running for the past 2 years. So this is an inter-university stock trading competition where students from all over Pakistan, they use KTrade's virtual platform to build their portfolio. So we give them 1 million of virtual currency, they build their portfolio, and the student with the highest value is the winner. In these 2 years, we've had around 2,000 plus students participating. We had over 20 universities, which included all the top ones, IBA, LUMS, even NED, KU, and IBA Sakkar for that matter. And it's interesting how students have been responding, because the response has been exceptional. So what we did was throughout, so this competition ran for 3 months, and we at KASB, we provided them with all the tools, which included the research portal, news flows, technical fundamental analysis, and we kept the students engaged. On average, the students reported a 20% portfolio return. The winner had over 125% return in 3 months, which was exceptional even for us. So that's one of the learnings that we've had, and we had over 10,000 plus trades that students made on the platform. That one thing that's worth mentioning is the top performing student, the one who won this year, had never traded before. And that student learned through our platform, through our research. And so that's one thing that we take as an achievement, because if someone did not know how to trade and ended up becoming the winner of that particular competition, was something that was very insightful. We at KTrade, I think we are one of the top performing stock apps right now. We had 100,000+ registered users. We just went live with digital onboarding as well. We are one of the first brokers to do that. So I think we are on the right track.
Thank you, Aimun. So yes, thank you. So as you said, more than 5. Can you hear us? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Thank you. So as you said that, more than 500 students participated in the competition in the last version, 200 participated in before. During the competition, the team of KSB went to universities in Sakkar and Lahore, all over Pakistan. And this was a 3 months program in which we worked with the universities to teach the students. We also have an online KSB varsity, which we will be integrating with JazzCash. So that the whole big opportunity is that JazzCash allows things which we were doing on a smaller scale to go on a much, much larger scale. And I think that's the platform accelerator which Erwan was alluding to, that the kind of scalability and the platforms they've made allows partners such as KSB, what we're trying to do with them, to a much more bigger audience. And Erwan, given that, I want to ask a few questions to you about your experience with JazzCash's experience in digital finance. Perhaps you might have mentioned them earlier, but I think I could not hear them because the voice was not that clear. So you did mention that you have 12 million active users, but can you also tell us a bit more about the statistics which were on that infographic in terms of the interaction, the volumes, what are the use cases which are currently enabled on JazzCash? because I think it's very, very interesting.
When it comes to scalability, I think there's one figure that says it's all. So last year we processed 1 billion plus transactions. We're ready to process your transaction, if I may say. So that's the scalability. Now, what you can do with JazzCash, so of course evolved over time. So it started with moving money. It used to be a painful thing for people in Pakistan. So moving money just from point A to point B was expensive, taking time, was not secure necessarily. Now it's just a matter of a few seconds. It's very cheap, it's secure, and you can also store money. You don't have to store cash somewhere at home. It's also a convenient way to save money and store money in a safe way. Over time, then we added more payment options, so you can pay your bills, you can pay your taxes, so everything you can imagine. You can also borrow money on JazzCash and instantly, so a few seconds. So there's a scoring engine, so someone basically looking at your profile to decide whether we can lend you money or not and how much. But you can borrow money in a few seconds, starting from a few thousand to up to 10,000 rupees. And will be, so that's what JazzCash is doing today. We're doing also a lot, and we started this year only a lot of retail payment, QR payments. So we started we became in less than 12 months the biggest, what we call acceptance network. So basically the number of merchants where you can actually pay with JazzCash using QR or what we call TL number through your feature phone. So we have 100,000 of them. So that's also a big achievement. So that's what we do today. I think what we have, I'm very excited because we have interesting and exciting initiatives for 2021. I think 2021 will be the year where you will see JazzCash acting more than ever as a platform. So it's really about welcoming in our ecosystem innovators, right? We can't be the innovators in everything. We're again good at connecting these innovators, and again, I want to acknowledge all the good work that KASB is doing, because they have appetite for that digital onboarding, for bringing their services to masses. And in every single market, you always find, I would say sadly, few players who have that appetite and who know they can take it to a much, it's not even to the next level, it's to something radically different. And again, it's not hopefully, in a few weeks, we'll be able to show you the product. And we are super excited. I mean, with the team, both teams, we do design sprints, we spend a lot of time on the product. It's not about the technology, it's about the customer. So we make sure that the onboarding is easy, but using the service is also easy. And that's also what we bring, I would say, to the table. How do we make it easy? How do we educate customers? Because the customers we have, most of them, a few months ago, they didn't know, how to use their phone to transact, to do money transfer. And you're bringing them investment solutions. They never invested in their whole life. So we'll make sure that in the solution that we're building with KASB, there is some customer education around investment, how to invest, that they can try investment without necessarily using their money at the beginning, maybe just trying something around some easy, step-by-step modules, training modules. So that's really what will happen in 2021. You will see that with KASB, and you will see a few other key initiatives exactly in the same tone, I would say. Again, we're not necessarily the producer of the service. We want to be an incubator and an accelerator, because we have all these assets that make it possible for partners such as KASB to reach out to the masses with a great customer experience. And again, that's what we do. That's what we bring. We're not trying to do it ourselves. That would be crazy. So, and that's why the partnership is great. And again, in 2020, so don't be worried about your transactions and the scale. You can pour as many customers as you want in our platform. We're ready to welcome them. So thank you, Ali. I hope it answered the question. You can.
Thank you. It certainly does, and you hit the nail on the head, as I say, that I think the theme of all the sessions has been about partnerships. I really loved how the PSX was giving credit to SECP, and SECP was acknowledging PSX work. So because almost you need all the enabling partnerships in place for a market to develop. I'm reading this book from Matt Ridley called How Innovation Works, and interestingly, this is the underlying ingredient for any kind of innovation which has happened in the world, that you need incremental work from all the people in the ecosystem to be there and when they are, everything is aligned, then there's that inflection kind of growth, which Farrukh Khan, the CEO of PSX, talked about, that now there can be inflection. We are waiting for, we were told that the Minister for Science and Technology, the Honorable Minister for Science and Technology, will join us as a surprise guest and will say a few words, because fintech and tech is really a high priority area for him. So I'm wondering whether he is on the line right now. Aimun, can you call his office and check? He was supposed to join 4:30, so we still have 2 minutes. And before that, I'll just give one example that in the world as well, if you go back in past, that there were multiple kinds of brokers. The biggest broker in the world in the US in 1920s was JP Morgan. He was a legend, but he was a prop trader, and he was not the one who drove stock market to other people to invest in, because his business model was prop trading. He had a big, massive book, and that's what he did, a legend. But it was Merrill Lynch, which was Merrill and the company Merrill Lynch, which he formed with Lynch, which took Wall Street to Main Street, as it is called. So, when Shauzab Saab, the commissioner of SECP, was talking about categorization of brokers, I thought it was very relevant and very appropriate, because that's what we have seen globally. If you study the history of capital markets development, that there are horses for courses, and I think that's what JazzCash did in Pakistan. That there were these large banks who were big, who were there for a long time, but they did not know tech, and it's players such as JazzCash which enabled the growth in this huge market. And I think now the active users of JazzCash are more than heavy banks. So it's like that puts things in perspective. And Erwan is only mentioning the active users. He's not mentioning the total number of users, which is 25 million. To put that in perspective, before they started, that was the total amount of bank account holders in Pakistan. So they are larger than the total amount of bank account holders in Pakistan in the banking sector. So that's the kind of growth which tech companies can enable. But I don't think you can expect that from their horses or courses, the other guys who will be great at other stuff. Aimun is.
He is joined.
Is he on the line? Fawad Chaudhry Saab, if Minister Saab, if you are on the call, we would love you to say some words if you can hear us.
Thank you very
Yes,
much
for
having me. And obviously, today, Tuesday is mostly a cabinet meeting, so I was there. And actually, we just signed yesterday this state bank's new initiative of cash, and I'm very actually happy to be here with you with the KTrade and JazzCash. I was actually, when I took the ministry, JazzCash was one of the first visits that I made, because I thought that one of the most important things that technology can bring to Pakistan is actually the documentation of economy. And documentation of economy can be done much better. Actually, there is nothing better than digitalization of payments and digitalization of banking. So I visited both Easy Pesa and JazzCash very early when I took over. And my own plan that I always advocate with the government, with the Prime Minister and FPR also, is that the only way we can actually document our economy is that we bring fintech into play. Pakistan has two great data, and unfortunately, those both data is not used by the government as it could have been. Nadra holds ID card record of about 22 crore people, 220 million people. Likewise, we have this mobile phones network of 14 crore and 140 million accounts with us. Unfortunately, this data that can actually revolutionize the documentation of economy, that can actually revolutionize the whole payment system, that can revolutionize the whole banking, is underused. And I believe that the fintech companies has a huge opportunity, and government regulations can help them actually to achieve a task of this documentation of economy that we cherish so much. So when I actually visited China, and I was in a market with a messy guy, and a beggar came close to us, and he was actually wearing a QR code, and he wanted, that the money should be transferred to him through a QR code. So this is the kind of documentation that we see in China, and now actually it's getting bigger and bigger. So I would like, obviously, that Pakistan fintech should go on to a new mirage. I think these companies working in the fintech can do wonders for Pakistan, wonders for the people of Pakistan. Right now, there is a government emphasis. I think the SR's program is one such example where payments have been, made through online systems and digital systems. Even I believe that the government services is the one area that we should immediately shift to online, and all the government payments should come through online and through mobile phones, I believe. So in the future of economy depends on how effective fintech systems we can bring in. Right now, we have our own problems because of the FATF, for example. PayPal is not available in Pakistan. International payments is a huge problem for us.
Sorry, we lost. We can't hear you. It just became muted. Yes, now it's okay.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can. Yes.
Okay, so I think, in my view, the fintech and the payments has a huge role in any country's economy, and but especially in Pakistan, where the huge number of youth is actually now is affiliated or trying to actually seek work in technology businesses. So as far as my ministry is concerned, obviously without technology, without fintech becomes, if not redundant, then it becomes very difficult for people to operate. So I would like, the fintech to take more, and organizations like JazzCash, we would like to have closer, I would say, relationship with these companies. We would like to have a closer cooperation in this regard. And I'm so happy that all of you are doing this great work. And my support and this government support is fully behind you. Please let me know what we can do, what you want from us, how can we help you in bringing the regulations that can actually help fintech in Pakistan. We would love to have, the multinational companies to operate fintech in Pakistan. We'd like to encourage our own companies to do that. So it's the technology that will revolutionize, that has actually revolutionized the world, and that will actually revolutionize further. Pakistan has to obviously. This is the only way forward. There's no other way. This is the only way forward. So I will thank you very much for having me, and please do let me know whatever your thoughts are and whatever your recommendations are. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Minister Saab, and thank you for taking your time and for your support. And last time I met Minister Saab, he was the Minister for Information, and I bought the President of Tencent Music from China and another venture fund, and he was extremely gracious and extremely generous host with his time and his ideas and his support. So I am aware that technology is something which is close to his heart, and certainly the initiatives which he has taken after becoming the Minister of Science and Technology show that. So thank you for taking your time. I know you just came back from a cabinet meeting. Thank you. Now going back to Karachi Stock Exchange. Now it's time for us to sign the MOU. But before that, I would request Sardar Ahmed Durrani, who is a partner at Osiris Group, which is an ESG-focused fund in Hong Kong. He specially flew over from Hong Kong to enable this. And I would love Durrani to, on my behalf also, he's signing on my behalf, but to say something about how Osiris Group looks at Pakistan, and then also please sign the agreement on my behalf with Erwan.
I hope you can hear me. We've had our share of technical difficulties. Yeah. So yes, Ali bin kind. He's asked me to fly in from Islamabad. I was in Pakistan for some personal reasons as well. So yeah, flying down to Karachi wasn't that tough. Ali's stuck in London. Osiris Group is a Hong Kong-based private equity firm. So we mainly are focused on the South Asian market: Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Myanmar. We look for structural deficits, essentially any social impact, any economic impact where a private group can come in and pretty much replace what the old school or disrupt what the old school multilaterals are. I'm sorry to say, like ADB, IFC have done a great job so far, but we try to come in faster, quicker, more efficiently, and get things done maybe, or maybe just smoothen the track a bit so that the larger parties can come in as well. As an investor, we would look at anything that has a large social impact. So financial inclusion is a big step towards that. Hence our interest in anything to do with Fintech, KASB, partnerships such as JazzCash. So my involvement with Ali naturally was also because of KASB's own reputation over the years. That's been amazingly clean. Ali Farid himself has been someone I've known for years and years, and he's been an inspiration as well. So when he came across the business proposition on what KASB was trying to do, which has pretty much become a digitized brokerage in Pakistan, it was a very easy conversation. We're talking about an institution that's been there as an incumbent, one of the older groups as well, but all of a sudden the fintech space, the new developments that we've taken on board structurally as an organization, and also with our worldview compared to the other players on the market. I've been dealing with our investors globally right now since the last few weeks just on this project as well, and the kind of feedback that I'm getting is so enlightening and eye-opening as well, because they've dealt with all the other brokers as well. They've all done great work, and hats off to them as well. But in terms of the quick step of adopting fintech and looking for the opportunity set, I think Ali and the team have done fantastic. I have to salute them for it. Simple stuff which we take for granted. One of the conversations was, how can we open an account? How much money do we need? And this is the first question that anyone asks. And it's as simple as this: 5,000 rupees. Now, historically, you can walk into a brokerage and say, I want to open an account with 10,000 rupees, because they will shoo you off. But 5,000 rupees, that's the new reality. That's the whole idea of financial inclusion. It's mass market. It's almost like, imagine 5 years ago when people used to buy a credit card off the street. Credit card salesmen would be standing everywhere just giving you a credit card, and anyone could sign up. The only difference was they were giving you a loan which you could spend and then have to return the money. In this case, what we're doing is we're literally giving you an access to a market segment or investment segment where only a few enjoyed that advantage. Now it's open for all. Every mom and pop shop, every housewife, every working woman, working man, young kid, student can now, instead of putting money under a mattress or buying property which is not going anywhere in rupee terms, is depreciating, or buying gold, now they can actually invest in the Pakistani economy. literally they will become a shareholder in the Pakistani economy by buying good stocks, having good research with the team sitting here and other brokerages as well who provide very good market research. They'll know what they're doing, they invest in, and then when we have reams and reams of data which is free on YouTube, on hopefully on the JazzCash platform as well, we'll have training modules for everyone starting from 101. What is investing? How do I invest? What is a stock? What does it mean when I invest into it? From that all the way up to very serious level sophisticated investment modules as well, where some of the team members talk about specific sectors and all. So the idea is you start from scratch, you create that ecosystem where that 2 lakh customer, now with the 50x number that Ali has been talking about and the Minister Sahib mentioned as well, will become hopefully a 10 million customer base. So that's what Osiris looked at, that's what I looked at, and that's the reason why we partnered with KASB and we put capital to work. And then with partners like JazzCash, it only multiplies that further. Where now, instead of trying to achieve 20,000 customers next year, we have access to it, and then it's up to the customers to learn, adopt, and then put their capital to work. With that, I'd like to thank Ali and everyone here, and we should get on with the signing.
Thank you.
Ali, over to you.
Thank you. Erwan, would be great if you can also say some closing remarks. But from my perspective, that I think it's a great milestone for Pakistan. And for me, the bigger thing is what Durrani talked about. It's a social impact. It's the impact that getting access to markets and getting access to information in people can transform their lives because it can help them make better investment choices. And I think the kind of work that JazzCash has been doing is already transforming people's life by giving them access to financial products and ability to transact and ability to participate in the formal economy. And I think that's why everybody in the ecosystem, including the government, they're all supportive of this because I think this helps Pakistan. So thank you.
Thank you, Ali. I think that was the first milestone was the signature, and that was the easy one. Now let's get it done. We have a lot of work to do, and I'd like to invite everyone here, including the other participants today, including SECP, PSX, Minister of Technology. That would be great to have you. So in a few weeks, when we have the product, we'll do a reveal ceremony, and it will be all about the product. So we'll focus on that in the next few weeks. Let's get it done, and let's transform, as you said, Ali, retail. How do you call that? Retail investments in Pakistan, and let's bring millions, and let's help them participate to Pakistan economy and Pakistan growth. I think it's a great future ahead for Pakistan as a country, its economy. Let's make sure that everyone can participate. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we're closing off now. Bye-bye. Khuda Hafiz.